The power of stillness in a world that won't stop talking. There's a quiet kind of power that most people never learn to harness. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It doesn't need to be loud to be heard. In a world addicted to noise, the most radical thing you can do is to be still. We live in a time where everyone has something to say. Our feeds are flooded with opinions, hot takes, performative vulnerability, and endless chatter. Silence has become uncomfortable. Stillness feels like emptiness. We've confused speaking constantly with being heard and moving constantly with making progress. But sometimes, the most meaningful transformation happens not in the noise, but in the stillness. Stillness is not passive. It is not lazy. It is not weakness. Stillness is strength under control. It is clarity in chaos. It is mastery without needing to perform. And yet, stillness scares us. Because when the world gets quiet, we are forced to confront ourselves. We're used to distraction. We scroll through timelines to avoid feeling the weight of loneliness. We keep conversations going just to avoid the silence in the room. We talk not because we have something meaningful to say, but because silence feels like failure. We fill every gap with noise, every moment with motion, terrified of what stillness might reveal. But here's the truth. Nothing meaningful can grow in chaos. You can't think clearly when your mind is overloaded. You can't listen deeply when you're always waiting to respond. And you can't find peace if you're constantly moving. Stillness is the ground on which self-awareness is built. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who could have been consumed by power, war, and politics, found time to write quietly in his journal each morning. Not to post, not to prove anything, but to reflect. To be still with himself. He understood that clarity is not found in noise, but in silence. In stillness, he wrote, the soul finds strength. This wasn't a metaphor for him. It was a survival strategy. Because if you cannot find stillness within yourself, the world will always pull you apart. Modern psychology echoes this ancient truth. Mindfulness, emotional regulation, cognitive clarity, they all rely on your ability to slow down, to pause before reacting, to observe without judgment, to sit with a thought, a feeling, a moment, without trying to escape it. But why is that so hard? Because we equate stillness with vulnerability. We think that being still means we're not in control. We've been conditioned to believe that movement equals value, that productivity equals worth. So we chase noise, we chase stimulation, we chase validation, and the more we chase, the more exhausted we become. The paradox is this: the more you chase peace, the further it runs. Because peace isn't something you catch, it's something you return to. It's already there, beneath the noise, beneath the ego, beneath the fear. You just have to stop long enough to feel it. Stillness teaches you how to hear yourself again, to separate your voice from the world's voice, to hear the soft whisper of your own intuition in a room full of shouting. In stillness, you start to ask different questions. Not, what do they think of me? But, what do I think of myself? Not, what should I do to keep up? But, what matters enough to slow down for? This shift is not small. It's revolutionary. Because a person who is grounded in stillness cannot be manipulated by noise. They don't need to prove themselves constantly. They don't panic when things don't go according to plan. They don't seek constant approval from others. Because they've learned to approve of themselves. Stillness gives you back your power. You no longer respond impulsively, you respond intentionally. You stop absorbing the chaos around you. You observe it with clarity. You no longer become a prisoner of your environment. You become the master of your inner space. This is emotional maturity. This is spiritual resilience. This is self-mastery. But stillness doesn't come naturally. It must be cultivated. It starts small. A moment of silence before you speak. A pause before you scroll. A deep breath before you react. These aren't trivial gestures. They are the micro habits that form the foundation of inner strength. And as you build this habit, something begins to change. The world around you may still be loud, but it no longer overwhelms you. You realize that you don't need to match the volume of the world to live fully in it. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to post every thought. Some things are more powerful when held quietly within. That's the essence of stillness. It's restraint in a world that rewards reaction. We're told that if we don't speak up, we'll be forgotten. If we don't move fast, we'll be left behind. But the truth is, the people who leave the deepest mark on this world are often those who don't scream for attention. They move with quiet conviction. They think before they speak. They build without broadcasting. Their stillness is not weakness, it's presence. It's poise. It's power. Think of the person in the room who listens more than they talk. The one who doesn't rush to speak. But when they do, people listen. Why? Because their words are not thrown out carelessly, they're chosen, shaped, and delivered with depth. That's what stillness gives you: weight, gravity, authority. You stop being noise. You become signal. But let's be honest, it's not easy to stay still when the world is yelling. It takes courage to not react. It takes strength to stay silent when provoked. It takes discipline to not explain yourself every time someone misunderstands you. But that's exactly where your power lies. Stillness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're not controlled by what doesn't deserve your energy. It means you're choosing depth over drama, purpose over performance, wisdom over noise. The next time the world feels too loud, pause. Close your eyes. Take a breath. Listen. The stillness is there, beneath it all, waiting for you to return to it. Because stillness is not the absence of life, it's the gateway to living deeply. When you stop chasing every sound, you start hearing what really matters. When you stop performing for others, you start being true to yourself. When you stop reacting to everything, you start creating something real. The world may never stop talking, but that doesn't mean you have to. You can choose stillness. You can choose presence. You can choose to anchor yourself in something deeper than the noise. Because in the end, the loudest voice isn't the one that talks the most. It's the one that knows when to be silent. And in that silence, there is strength. In that stillness, there is power. And in that power, there is peace.